Hey guys, it's Jessica. It's been a while since I last uploaded a video. I think I'm gonna be doing more Q&A kind of videos now, or like talking videos. I got asked a lot of questions on my blog, through my email, and through DMs on Instagram, so I thought I would answer them. And today's topic is being an Asian American in Korea, especially being a non-Korean Asian American in Korea. I got asked this question quite a bit, and I thought I would answer it because before I moved to Korea, I also had this question because I saw a lot of Epik YouTubers, but they didn't look like me and they didn't really experience the things that I experienced. So I really wanted to get my voice out there, just in case anyone else had any questions, and I know that people do because they've been asking me. So I thought I would discuss it today. So I came to Korea at the end of April this year, and I've been living here for 7 months now, and so far most of my experiences have been positive. Everyone has been super nice to me, and yeah, I never experienced the things that a lot of other people experience, like being stared at. I've been stared at a lot, but it was more because of how I dressed and how I moved around. And it's not really about my skin color. I think it's just because I kind of stick out a little bit more because of where I was raised. So yeah. So let's begin first with my workplace. I'm an Epik teacher in Korea. I work in Hwaseong시, which is in Gyeonggi-do, and it's very countryside of Gyeonggi-do. So I really love living here because I get the countryside, and if I ever want to go to the city, I can always travel there. So it's the best of both worlds. So I love it here. I get mistaken as Korean a lot. My students thought I was Korean, or my co-teachers did, or things like that. So I got mistaken for that at first, but once I explained it to them, yeah, it went pretty easy after that. But I think even more confusing is my history or my ethnicity because I am Hmong American, so most people don't know what that is, and they have a really complex history and they don't have their own country, so it gets really hard to explain what Hmong people are to my coworkers and things like that, because I don't have a strong enough Korean language skill in order to explain that. So I usually just try looking it up on Papago and kind of like pointing to it on my phone or something similar to that. At my elementary school, I haven't gone there often, so sometimes it's really funny because my students forget that I'm not Korean, and then I have to remind them every time I see them. And it's kind of funny, but yeah, I love all my students. They're awesome. Usually everything goes pretty well because I did study Korean in university. I don't have good speaking, but I have a pretty basic understanding of listening and writing and reading, so I think communication-wise it's a little bit easier for me too, just because I have a basic understanding of Korean. During the first week when I first started working at my middle school, a lot of my coworkers, they said that they felt more comfortable talking to me because I was Asian and I did have a basic understanding of Korean. So I learned a lot from them and they learned a lot from me, and overall it's been a really great experience. I was also really lucky to be placed at 2 schools with really friendly coworkers who were around my age and who were interested in getting to know me better, and who really reached out and tried to help me integrate into the school life and to make Korea feel like home. So I'm really thankful that I was placed at really good schools. So in Korea, I actually do get stared at a lot in Korea, and sometimes it's really scary for me because I'm just not used to it. And sometimes it's scary because people follow me around and yeah, but in Korea they're a little bit more straightforward than they are in Minnesota. I think it's also an Asian thing. Yeah, but sometimes it's really scary because a lot of people stare at me. For an example, my first time I went to Suwon Station, my co-teacher dropped me off there after we went to the immigration office to get my ARC, my alien registration card, and she dropped me off there, and as soon as I got out of her car, I walked a little bit of a distance and this guy saw me and he started following me. And then he started talking to me, and then he asked for my name, my number, and he was like really young and stuff, and he kept on telling me how pretty I was, if I was meeting a friend, or where I was going, and he kept on following me, and yeah, so that was kind of scary. And then I had a couple more experiences like that. I told this to my friend, and my friend said that was actually really weird because in Korea, guys don't really approach people randomly on the street. And usually they're not alone, so that guy was alone and it was kind of uncomfortable. Something else as an Asian American living in Korea is that at school and pretty much everywhere you go, you use chopsticks. Growing up as an Asian American, I wasn't taught how to use chopsticks appropriately. I mean, we grew up using them, but you kind of just teach yourself how to use it. So I didn't even realize that I wasn't using chopsticks properly, or that I wasn't skilled in chopsticks until I moved to Korea and I saw all my coworkers using chopsticks, and it made me realize how much I needed to learn and practice in using chopsticks. I'm not like horrible at it, but I'm not good in it either. So definitely need to improve my chopstick skills. And for a more serious topic, I guess, I wanted to talk about discrimination in Korea as an Asian American. I haven't really experienced it. When I tell people that I'm not Korean, usually they're happier. They become a lot brighter and warmer to me, and they try to show me around and help me out a lot more, especially when I go to the mall or something. Usually the people working there, they are really nice to me and they're always really helpful and very kind. So to be honest, I haven't really experienced any discrimination in Korea. For an example, I went to like an underground mall in Suwon, and the owner was super nice to me, and we had this long conversation, and he thought I was Korean at first, and so he was really shocked when he found out that I wasn't Korean. And we had this long discussion about like, how do you like living here, where are you from, and just like things about culture and stuff. So I thought that was really fun and really nice. But yeah, usually everyone greets me really warmly when I tell them I'm not Korean. Sometimes I get treated kind of coldly, but I think that's more because I'm a foreigner, and so they feel uncomfortable talking to me because I'm a foreigner. So for an example, I went to this grocery store, and I couldn't understand when I first came here because I didn't know words like garbage bag, 쓰레기, 봉투, and things like that. I didn't know those kind of vocabulary because we never learned them in my Korean class. Those things like never popped up, but they're so necessary when you're living in Korea. So I never like learned those kind of terms, so I didn't understand what she was saying, and she was like asking me if I needed a receipt or and things like that, and I didn't know about it. She was older, and she kind of dismissed me, and I felt really bad after that happened. It was like a shocking experience for me because I grew up in the suburbs and I was always really sheltered growing up, and so that was a really big and shocking experience for me. But the more that I went to the grocery store and the more that we saw each other and interacted with each other, I realized how much she's warmed up to me. I think it's just because at first I was a foreigner and I was a new face, and because of that, it kind of creates this kind of uncomfortableness because we can't communicate and things like that. So I think she was kind of cold at first because we couldn't really communicate with each other. Yeah, but after that, definitely things have warmed up and I feel a lot more comfortable going to the grocery store now. And I also have a different story. So there's another grocery store that I go to a lot, and they were the first people that actually welcomed me to Korea outside of my workplace. I went there one day after going to the bank because I needed to open up a bank account. So I went there, and the owner and his wife were super welcoming to me, and they were always really nice and really warm, and they tried really hard to help me adjust and feel welcomed in Korea. They knew that I taught at the local middle school, so they were always really nice and really welcoming, and they always asked me how I was doing and how my day was, and they were always so happy when I came into their store. So yeah, I felt like as a foreigner, sometimes they work harder to make you feel at home and welcome you. So I guess that's a plus of being a foreigner living in Korea. But I haven't really experienced any bad discrimination to say from Korea. Yeah. Something else I wanted to talk about with like the staring and the following is that people tell me that I look really nice and really calm and stuff. Like I look like a typical really nice Asian girl, I guess you could say. But then as soon as I start walking and stuff, people say I emanate I give off a really, really American confident feel, and so they kind of felt what's the word? They felt intimidated, something like that when they first meet me, because I was different, because I was so confident, and so I had like this aura that was different from the typical Korean person. And I was really shocked because I never noticed that. But then a lot of like my close friends and stuff that I made in Korea, they told me that when they first met me, they were really surprised because the aura I gave off when I was like walking and things like that. And sometimes it's a bad thing because in America, we're always like smiling at strangers, saying hi and like making eye contact on the street. And I feel like in Korea, not a lot of people do that, and I kind of understand why they don't want to do that, because sometimes I'm just walking down the street and you make eye contact with someone and they start following you and they ask you questions and they're trying to get you to sign something or trying to sell you something or to join something. And the American in me, the Midwest Minnesotan in me, is just like, be polite, apologize, smile, kindly avoid and say no and then leave. And so that's what I often do, and I think that's kind of funny because a lot of Korean people just walk by and here I am always stuck with like I feel like people know. I don't know how they know, but they just know, and I always get targeted when I go to somewhere busy like Suwon or Seoul, so I thought that was a funny story to tell. Yeah, I don't know what else to talk about. I hope that you guys found this video helpful, and please leave a comment down below. Sometimes I don't respond to DMs because sometimes I get really scary DMs, like kind of like stalkerish DMs. So I prefer if you leave a comment down below instead of private messaging me. But yeah, I hope that was helpful, and I'll upload more videos in the future. Thank you. Bye.